Lucas?
The city of Jerusalem was in ruins.
That's right. And when the king noticed that he was very sad, was this a good thing or a bad thing? Bad thing. Why was it bad? Do you remember? Yeah.
I think I have two answers. The first one, because you're not allowed to be sad in the
King's presence.
And the second one, because he thought that Jerusalem got names.
The walls were broken down and the gates were burned. The city was in a dangerous position, wasn't it? So when Nehemiah first heard it, he prayed, and then the king noticed he was sad, and that was actually an answer to prayer, even though at first it kind of scared him because the king could have had him killed if he wanted to. What did the king do instead of killing him? He asked what is wrong, and he told him, and what did the king do for Nehemiah?
He gave all the materials to Nehemiah for building the walls after Jerusalem. Okay,
good. And he gave him some letters that would help him pass safely through different territories. And then when he left the city, was he the only one that went, or did other people go with him? Okay, some other people went with him. Do we know we don't know their names, but what kind of people went with him? Go ahead, yeah. There were other people that were going to go and help him, right? And then there was another group of people that the king sent. The what? Soldiers. That's right. He had an armed escort or bodyguards to go with him. When he got there with all the people, how long had he been traveling? 3 months. That's right. He had a long journey to walk, and only the soldiers had the horses. Was everybody excited to see him? No, most people didn't even know he was coming, didn't really care. Who came to see him? There were 2 men. The governors. Do we remember their names? They're really strange names, right? Sanballat and Tobiah. Did they want Nehemiah to come and build the walls? Why didn't they want him to do that? That's right, they were enemies of the Jews, and so they wanted to stop it. After Nehemiah went around the city at nighttime to look at it to see how big a job it was, he met with the people and told them what God had sent him to do. What was the people's response? How did they like the idea? Yeah, what did they say? Do we remember? We will rise up and build. And Nehemiah then encouraged them, saying, the Lord will help us. Could they do that by themselves? Literally, they couldn't do it by themselves, one person for sure. They needed a lot of people, didn't they? But they also needed the Lord's help because of their enemies. Well, the people were excited, and they got busy. They couldn't just start putting the blocks one on top of the other. First, they had to clean up some rubbish. They actually took some of these stones that had been in the wall out of the rubbish, cleaned them up so they could put them in the wall. They had all kinds of preparatory work to do before they actually started building. Everybody had a job to do. And Nehemiah said the best way to get this job done is to be organized. So he organized the people into 42 different work crews. That's a lot of people then, isn't it? And then he divided the wall into 42 sections. And he assigned each crew to a different part of the wall, so that they could not just build up one section of the wall from the ground all the way up. They needed to be building it at the same level all the way around the city. And so if each group was working on their section at the same time, they could connect the wall on the bottom and then also be building it all the way around to the same height all the way around the wall. That was a good plan, wasn't it? Do we get much done if we're not organized? No. So, Nehemiah was pretty wise. I think God helped him to be wise, don't you? God gave him that idea. And he also decided, he didn't just say, oh, group 1, you come over here, group 2, go over there. He found out where they lived in the city or outside of the city. And they were part of the crew that worked on the section that was closest to where they lived. That would be easier for them to get there, wouldn't it? If they lived on this side of the city, should they be repairing that side of the city? Probably not. So he made it logistically more convenient for the people, as well as it being organized. And then he said, you know what? The priests are going to fix the sheep gate. Now, why do you think he chose the priest to fix the sheep gate?
Because I don't know how to explain it, but usually the sheep gate is close to the church because I don't really know how to explain it.
What came through the sheep gate?
So the priest was more aligned with sacrificing, and the sheep were used to sacrifice.
Perfect. Exactly. That's it. So the priests were the ones who actually did the sacrificing of the sheep, and the sheep came through the sheep gate. So it made sense. The priest should fix the sheep gate. And they were getting a lot of work done. They worked hard. They got the preparations done first, and then they started laying one big stone on top of another. They're not little tiny stones, are they? No. So it took working together. And they realized, I couldn't do this by myself. I want it done. He couldn't do it by himself, but if all of us work together, we can build. We can do this job. Of course, we also need God's help, because there were some other people who saw them that didn't like what they were doing. Do you remember what their names are? And Sanballat. What a strange name. Well, Sanballat in particular didn't like it. He was really angry. And so he came and he started making fun of the Jewish people as they were working. He called them feeble people, which means they're really weak. They wouldn't be able to do the job. He made fun of the wall that they were building. And he told them that they wouldn't be able to do it. They just weren't up to the task. Now, is that encouraging words? No. And maybe if he only said it one time, you could ignore it. But what if he kept saying it over and over again? It'd be hard to ignore, wouldn't it? And then his friend, Tobiah, came along and said, yeah, and if a fox ran along the top of their wall, it would fall down. Have you guys ever seen a fox?
Yes.
There's quite a few of them here in Ireland, aren't there?
Yes.
And there's one that lives in my neighborhood somewhere, my housing estate, and he likes to run across the back wall in my back garden. You can guess what my dog does. She barks like crazy. But it runs right along that very skinny wall really quickly and doesn't disturb a thing. You can't tell. If you didn't see him run across there, you would never be able to tell. Is a fox very big?
No.
Is he heavy?
No.
He's a light little thing, isn't he? And so when Tobiah said, if a fox runs along the top of your wall, it will fall down, what was he really saying? You guys are doing a terrible job, isn't he? They couldn't build something that would last. Why, even a little fox could knock it down. That wasn't very encouraging, was it? Do we ever do that to other people? Say things that aren't quite so nice? Maybe to our brother or to our sister.
My brother's very nice today.
Sorry?
My brother's really nice today.
He's really nice today? Oh, that's good. Sometimes we say something to our brother or our sister that's not very encouraging. What about if you play a sport and you're pretty good, but there's that one kid who's on your team who doesn't do a good job every single time? It's hard not to say something mean, isn't it? Or to be encouraging. But is it the right thing to do? To say something mean? No, it's not. What about to the kid in your class? There's always at least one kid in your class who's not very smart. Should we make fun of them for not being very smart? No. Should we laugh if somebody else does? No, it's not kind, is it? In fact, it's sinful activity. It's activity that does not please God. We need to make sure that we're not like Sanballat and Tobiah, don't we? God is not pleased when we participate in that type of activity. Well, they kept working. The Bible tells us that they had a mind to work. In other words, the people were determined to build this wall. And so they built, and they built, and they built. And this is only halfway. But they got all the way around the city, halfway built. They were pretty excited, but it was a lot of work, wasn't it? So they were getting, it does kind of look like a castle, doesn't it? But they were also getting tired because it was hard work. And they were still, because they were tired, when Sanballat and Tobiah kept saying their thing, they got discouraged. But this time, Sanballat and Tobiah were so angry when they saw that the wall was connected all the way around and it was halfway up. They were really angry. They were so angry that they decided they were going to do something different. They weren't just going to make fun of the people of Israel. They were going to build an army. So Sanballat, he lives north of Jerusalem. He said, I'll bring my army. He talked to the people that lived on the east side, the people that lived on the south side, the people that lived on the west side. And he said, if we all come at the same time, we'll have Jerusalem surrounded and we could beat them and we could stop them from building the wall. Now that's a little bit more scary than somebody just laughing at you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, they let the Jewish people know that they were coming with an army because they wanted to make them scared. And so the Bible tells us they actually came 10 different times to tell them, we're bringing an army. We're going to have an army come against you. You're going to be completely surrounded. There's no way you can win against all of us. And we will stop you from building this wall. What do you think the people did? They prayed. Good.
Ask Nehemiah what to do.
That's right. They asked Nehemiah what to do. Why did they ask him? Because he was the leader. And they were a little frightened. And Nehemiah, he prayed, and the people prayed, and God gave them a plan. Everyone will have a spear or a sword or a bow and arrow and a shield, and half of the men will be watching and guarding, and the other half will be working. So the work slowed down, didn't it? Because only half of them were now doing the work. But they needed to do that so they could be aware the first sight of danger that the army was coming, then they could come down off of the walls and they could be prepared to fight. And so they watched and worked at the same time.
That's smart. Wow.
Huh?
Wow.
That was a good plan, wasn't it? Yeah, well, Sanballat and Tobiah might not have let that stop them, but they were also praying, weren't they? And so God changed Sanballat and Tobiah's heart and said, they're ready for us. They're going to fight. Let's not have the war. Let's not fight against them. And so they sent all of their army home. You think that the people were delighted?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty happy. Do you think they trusted Sanballat and Tobiah? No. Do you think they stopped having their sword and their shield? Nope, they kept guard. Reminds me of the Bible verse that tells us how we're supposed to be in regards to our enemy. Who is our enemy? Satan, isn't he? The Bible tells us to be sober, to be vigilant, because your adversary or your enemy, the devil, walks about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. What does devour mean? To eat, and that's what a lion would do. In other words, to destroy. Satan's always looking to destroy it. And so we can't let our guard down for a minute. And that's what these people, under the direction, under the leadership of Nehemiah, knew they had to do. Oh, they went away, but they might come back. We can't let our guard down. We must be prepared. Well, Nehemiah also came up with another idea. We need an alarm system. Now, do they have electricity?
No.
We have electricity. We could use electricity to make an alarm like a bell or something. So their alarm was going to be a trumpet. That's what their trumpets look like. An animal horn. They would blow on it and make a very loud noise. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yes.
It's pretty loud, isn't it? And so they had a trumpet to sound the alarm. And he said, you know what else? To help you be encouraged, I want you to work together as your family. So the little ones would do what they could. They would be down on the ground behind the wall. They would do what they could to encourage and to help their dad who was building or guarding. The wives, of course, were probably fixing food or doing whatever else they could. But they were to be near their family. Why? Because if Sanballat and Tobiah came back with their army, they could defend not just the city, but they could in particular defend their family. You think they did the right thing?
Yes.
They did. They didn't let Sanballat and Tobiah stop them. Oh, they did discourage them for a little bit. But Nehemiah reminded them, God is more powerful than our enemy. God is with us. God will not leave us. God will help us. That reminds me of another verse. Jesus said, I will never what? Leave thee nor forsake thee. God has promised us His presence in our times of trouble. Do we ever have problems?
Yes.
Does Jesus leave us when we have troubles? No, He never leaves us, does He? He's with us when things are going good, but He's also with us when we're having some problems. And so we just need to look to Him, to trust Him. And that's what Nehemiah told the people to do. Trust in God. God will help us. You know, because Nehemiah was strong and convinced that God was with him, he helped to encourage the other people to do the same thing. Do you think we can encourage one another? You think you could encourage me? I could encourage you. Juliana could encourage Lucas. Lucas could encourage Isaac. Isaac could encourage Isaiah. We can, can't we? Isaiah could encourage Zach. Yeah? We could encourage one another. If we know someone else is having a hard time, what can we do to encourage them?
Say nice things.
Say nice things. Good. What else can we do? Say nice things is a good idea, but I know there's something else that we can do.
not hit someone with a ball in their head.
Not hit somebody with a ball in their head. Okay. Havana?
Help them.
We can help them. Try to help them. Okay. And we can pray for them, can't we? And we can let them know that we're praying for them. What if we're all by ourselves and we start thinking about our problems? Should we continue being focused on our problem and getting worried?
No.
What should we do? Pray. That's right. And remind ourselves, who's bigger than my problem? God is. Who can help me with my problem? God can. And so we can encourage ourselves as well by reminding ourselves to trust in the Lord rather than looking at our problem and being worried. Did you know that David in the Bible, it says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. He was in a really tough spot. The people were thinking of killing him, of stoning him. Is that a good place to be? No. But he didn't give up. He didn't try to run away. He prayed and encouraged himself in the Lord. He reminded himself of who God is. Is that a good thing to do? Yeah, it is. You know, Nehemiah did the same thing. He didn't focus on Sanballat and Tobiah. He didn't focus on the army. He didn't focus on the fact that the job they were doing was so big of a job. He focused on God and God's promises. And God gave him reassurance. He gave him peace in his heart. And our verse kind of talks about that. Found in Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. It's talking about a specific kind of person who God will keep in perfect peace. The person whose mind is stayed on thee. In other words, God will give us the peace even in the middle of a troubled time if our mind keeps thinking about God and keeps reading His Word, because he trusteth in thee, because his faith is in God. All right, let's read this together a few times, and then we'll let you guys say it. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. Let's do it again. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. One more time. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. Okay, we'll start in the back row this time. All right, Isaiah.
Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3.
Okay. And Havana, right across. you did.
Thou keepest in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3.
Good. Okay. Juliana.
Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3.
And last but not least,
Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3.
very good. All right. We're going to sing some songs. We're going to sing the verse that we it was also Isaiah chapter 41. I think it is chapter 40, verse 31. Sorry. Ready? Let's sing this one. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach me, Lord, to wait. And we're going to sing the song that we will sing in a while. I'm not exactly sure what week we'll sing it, but we'll sing it for the adults. The one we call it the Green Horse song. But also the Yellow Horse, right? Okay. Ready? Did you ever talk to God? Love, tell him that you need a friend to love. Pray in Jesus' name, believing that God answers prayer. Have you told him all your cares and woes, every tiny little fear? He knows. You can know he'll always hear, and he will answer prayer. You can whisper in the crowd to him. You can cry when you're alone to him. You don't have to pray aloud to him. He knows your thoughts. On a lofty mountain peak, he's there. In a meadow by a stream, he's there. Anywhere on earth you go, he's been there from the start. Find the answer in his word, it's true. You'll be strong because he walks with you. By his faithfulness he'll change you too. God answers prayer. And there's the green horse. Very good. All right, does somebody have a favorite?
Wait, you know the one that, I don't know, I find this when I was younger. I remember from the kids, there was something like the Bible, and then we had to sign up and we had to do actions. I just forgot what song that was. Not the B-I-B-L.
Not the B-I-B-L-E?
No. But that's a good song.
That's a good one. You want to sing that one for today?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's sing the Bible. The B-I-B-L-E, I mean. The B-I-B-L-E, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God, the B-I-B-L-E, Bible. The B-I-B-L-E, I take it along with me. I read and pray and then obey the B-I-B-L-E, Bible. Okay.
sounds like a coconut.
Oh no. Okay. Does somebody else have a favorite song? Havana? The elephant one? If I were a butterfly, I think that one. No, I know what you're talking about, but I thought she wanted the one with the elephant. I like this one too. When mountains tower rugged and high, rise to the challenge, look to the sky, trust in the Lord and start out to climb. Reach for the goal, one step at a time. Little by little, inch by inch, by the yard is hard, by the inch, what a cinch. Never stare up the stairs, just step up the steps. Little by little, inch by inch. Good. Faith in Christ takes work every day. Reading your Bible, learning to pray. Build on the habits, seek help divine. Great things are done, one step at a time. Little by little, inch by inch, by the yard is hard, by the inch, what a cinch. Never stare up the stairs, just step up the steps. Little by little, inch by inch, it's a cinch.
What does the word look like? Like those are balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. But have you ever seen an inchworm?
Yeah.
They flatten out and they go up like this and then flatten out.
Yeah.
So I think it's supposed to be
But the small is creepy.
Remember the one I started to sing? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember that one?
I live summer camp.
I was the one who wanted my
I spotted my dream. I spotted your dream. I did. Just I really know.
Okay. Let's see if we can remember this one. If I were a butterfly, I thank you, Lord, for giving me wings. And if I were a robin in a tree, I thank you, Lord, that I could sing. And if I were a fish in the sea, I'd wiggle my tail and I giggle with glee. But I just thank you, God, for making me me. Oh, you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you made me a child. But I just thank you, God, for making me. I know there's two other verses. Yes, we did it in that sense.
Is it open one?
Yeah.
There's also a unicorn.
No, it's not a unicorn.
What is there?
Okay, I think the second verse is worm, bear, and elephant.
Oh, the bear.
Yeah. If I were a silly worm, I thank you, Lord, that I could squirm. And if I were a fuzzy wuzzy bear, I thank you, Lord, for my fuzzy wuzzy hair. And if I were an elephant, I thank you, Lord, for raising my trunk. But I just thank you, God, for making me. Lord, you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you made me his child. But I just thank you, God, for making me. And I know there's a third verse that ends with crocodile.
Oh, yeah, the crocodile.
And there's kangaroo. What comes first, though?
Crocodile?
Huh?
Hippo?
No, not hippo. There's something, and then kangaroo, and then the crocodile. I can't remember what the first thing is in that verse. Oh, octopus?
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
If I were an octopus, I thank you, Lord, for my good looks. And if I were a kangaroo, you know I'd hop right up to you. I think we're not remembering it in the right order. And if I were a crocodile, I thank you, Lord, for my big smile. But I just thank you, God, for making me. Oh, you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you gave me a child. But I just thank you, God, for making me. All right, we're going to say goodbye to everybody online.
Please subscribe. Please like the video and share with your friends.